Jim White on talkSPORT this Thursday morning. I'm alongside Danny Murphy and Dean Saunders. We've been talking about money in the game. Right now we're going to be talking about, sadly, for many of their fans, the Premier League's bottom club right now, Swansea City, a club, Dean, that you played for, and quite rightly you're asking questions. What is going on at the club? Because since Roberto Martinez left in 2009, they've had Paulo Sousa, Brendan Rodgers, Michael Laudrup, Gary Monk, Francesco Guidolin, and now the American Bob Bradley. The fans are not happy, and they're not happy too. They say there's a lack of communication between the club and the fans. Well, not much has come out of the club, so that's why we've taken this further. Swansea's chairman, Huw Jenkins, joins us live this morning. Huw, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Jim. Good morning, boys.
Good morning, Huw.
Huw, I'm with Dean and Danny, and we sympathise with you at the moment. It is tough times for Swansea. Why has it gone pear-shaped as it has, Huw? Because at the moment, Swansea and the fans are not enjoying life in the Premier League.
No, I agree, Jim. It's a big change for us. We've had a lot of success over a number of years, and you've just highlighted a lot of change has gone on over the latter years, and obviously this is our sixth year in the Premier League. The only thing I would say is not unique to us. I think we all know, everybody connected in football, how difficult things are. I think the standard has pushed on this year. You can see, I think, where the Premier League's at, and the top teams obviously are dominating as always. But it's hard to cover the changes we've had. I think we've had a group of players that have come with us over a number of years, a core of good players that have been with us over, even back to our division, the old Division 3 days and forward, that have got older, and quietly we've had to try and change them and keep the changes in the right way. But we all know that the more changes you make, the more you take away from probably the principles we had, and the difficulty it is to keep it together. And we found that difficult. We can't argue, but I think there are many teams that have come through. One of Danny's ex, one of Fulham is one of the ex-clubs there. It's difficult in the Premier League to maintain those changes and keep consistency. But we can't forget that while we are bottom, there's a lot of points to play for. Even though we've performed at a poor level up to now, our boys have proven over the last few years they can achieve a much higher standard, and I'm sure over the next few weeks leading up to Christmas, and it's a crucial period. We're not far away from all these teams who have started the season reasonably well. So we can't look at it as a disaster. It's there. We're not far off, and we've got to make sure we start turning a few more performances in, and obviously picking up wins.
Yeah.
Huw, it's Dean.
Hi, Dean.
Hiya. Well, I think a couple of things. Reality check for every supporter, because it was 2002, I think, when James Thomas scored a goal, keep us out of the conference, and since you were there, and since that moment, obviously studying everything, the club's gone correct decision, Martinez, correct decision, Sosa, 7th in the Championship, correct decision, Brendan Rodgers, correct decision. You've got lots and lots of things right at the club, and as a supporter, I just can't believe we're in the Premier League. People forget that every year we're in the Premier League, it's a result. You've got to have dreams, and you've got to try and finish as high as you can. But since you've left, or you've not left, but since obviously there's been the changes,
Americans have come in.
What has your day-to-day job changed?
Only slightly, Dean. Looking back, we had a board of directors and a group of shareholders that to be fair, we all worked together in a positive way for a number of years, and it was the last few years it was obvious that quite a lot of the shareholders weren't attached to working day to day, and I suppose they felt time was right to change after 15 years. But you're right, there is a slight change, and not a lot, to be honest, but the fact that we had the change, Dean, we all know in football, it does, all of a sudden, there's a bit of uncertainty there. And,
well, you've driven this team, you and Martin, between you and the other directors, you've driven this team up from the conference, near enough, up to, in the last 3 years, it's 12th, 8th, 12th, the last 3 years. So this year we're in a bit of trouble.
Yes.
And I just looked from the outside, we haven't replaced Boney. Obviously, Danny Graham got us up the first bits. He got 20-odd goals. Then Michu come in and got 20-odd. Boney's come in and got 20-odd, and he's left. I don't think we've replaced him. And was there any way we could have kept Ashley Williams?
Well, if we chained him down to his bed up in Gower, yes, we might have. But it's you've all been in football long enough, Danny, Dean. He's been with us a long time, Ashley, and he was leading that team, and then he wanted a slight change towards the end of his career. Well, what do we do? Do you force him to stay, and then if we start off poorly, he regrets that decision, and he's back in square one.
Yeah,
so
it's
not an easy one. I've worked with Ashley for nigh on 10 years, and sometimes you have to put your hand up and say, well, all right, it may be time, and we owe him that, and we had to try and move on.
Huw, the American investors have come in. Why did they want Bob Bradley? Because he was a man with no Premier League experience. I think the fans were surprised with this appointment, and clearly it's not working.
Yeah, but there's a few things. To answer the first one, I think, Swansea have always been a club, as Dean just mentioned, quite a few times. We've given, and some people might think we were mad along the way. We've given people opportunities. Go back to Martinez and Paulo Sousa coming back into the club, and even giving Brendan an opportunity when he'd left Reading and Watford. We had gone down that route many times of probably, going against the trend and doing something different. So, it's not that unusual for our club to do that. But we'd all have to admit at the moment, I think the way we started from the summer on, I think the pre-season to me, and that's what I touched on, perhaps in the summer I could have made a better decision. From the pre-season on, I don't think things were right. It's been too flat at the club, and that has a knock-on effect. And obviously it's taken us a while to quietly work through this. We're with Bob as well to try and turn that corner, and that's what we're working towards.
But Huw, be honest with me, is Bradley's job under threat as we speak?
Well, I don't know where the story come from, Jim, about things, but it's quite natural in football. Everybody needs results, right? So there's no, but the last thing we need as a football club at this point in time is a continual changing manager. And I made a reference earlier about Fulham and their time in the Premier League. They had 3 changes at that season when they tried to stave off relegation, and we are whether we agree or not, we're in a similar position, and we got to make sure that first and foremost we like we said about changes in the summer, we need stability. We need to make sure that we look at the January window as a chance to reinforce things, and there are players not in the form levels that they have done in the past, and we've got to find out why that is.
Huw, a quick point from Danny.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Fulham, because actually a big problem at Fulham at the time was the recruitment, which players they let go and which players they brought in.
Yeah.
And I know that obviously you've had a lot of success down the years in that area. Has that team remained consistent? Well, I know there's been some change in ownership, or has that changed a lot in the last year or two? Because the players that have been brought in don't seem to have done as well as some of the players in the past. I think that'd be fair to say.
Yeah, no, I agree, Danny. But I think you all know the way the game has changed. The levels of, to try and bring a player in this day and age is costing double like he did 3 years ago, and we are competing with more teams for probably the type of player we could bring in.
But what I meant is your team there, is your recruitment team the same, or has that had to change?
No, it is up to now. Up to the summer, Danny, it's the same. There's no difference, and we have tried to readdress things over the last couple of months, and we are looking at things a bit differently and trying to make those decisions better. But I think you all know, again, when we've had slight changes in the way we play as a team, the structure and how we play, that has had the biggest bearing on team recruitment. because we haven't had a settled identity in how we played
Yeah.
the last probably 18 months, 24 months, makes it very difficult to bring in the right players to suit us.
Hugh, listen,
I was gonna say
what I do say is that we appreciate, we're running out of time, unfortunately, Dean. Hugh, we really do appreciate you coming on and speaking to us. Bob Bradley stays in the job for now. I know you've got Sunderland next. We wish you well on that. But Hugh will be watching it, and no doubt we'll get reaction to this chat from Swansea fans. But I do appreciate you joining us this morning, Hugh.
Okay, thanks very much, boys.
Thanks,
Cheers, Hugh. Cheers.
Huw Jenkins, Swansea chairman, talking to Dean, Danny and myself. Jim Wynn on talkSPORT.